In this video we will watch the inevitable path. The world lives a sixth mass extinction of life, and it's worse than it looks. Study warns that the planet is going through a biological annihilation of its animal species, which casts a gloomy perspective on the future of life, including human life. A third of the species are experiencing population decline. Now, why are we concerned about these populations? For example, we are losing populations of birds, bats and insects that control pests that allow us high productivity in agriculture, which feeds humanity. Subscribe to the channel. The world is experiencing a biological annihilation of its animal species, in a phenomenon that can already be considered a sixth mass extinction and which is more serious than it seems, according to the study published in the scientific journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, NAS. There is a trend of increasing attacks against the planet's biodiversity, resulting in a dark perspective on the future of life, including human life. The reason, says the study, human-caused global environmental problems. In recent decades, habitat loss, resource overexploitation, invasive organisms, pollution, toxin use and, more recently, climate change, as well as the interactions between these factors, have led to catastrophic declines in numbers and in the population sizes of both common and rare vertebrate species, say the researchers. For the research, one of the most comprehensive ever carried out on the subject, scientists from Stanford University and the National Autonomous University of Mexico used a sample of 27,600 terrestrial vertebrates and a detailed analysis of 177 species of mammals that suffered population decline between 1900 and 2015. The researchers noted that vertebrate populations have suffered massive losses, even among species of little concern. About a third, 8,851, of the analyzed species, which represents almost half of the known vertebrate species, showed population decline and decrease in terms of geographic distribution, even those that are currently not considered to be at risk of extinction. Among the 177 mammals studied, all lost 30% or more in geographic distribution, with more than 40% recording a severe population decline, with shrinkage exceeding 80%. Several mammal species that were relatively safe a decade or two ago are now endangered, the researchers say. As examples of representative declines in population, they cited cheetahs, orangutans, lions, pangolins and giraffes. In the 500 million years of Earth's existence, there have already been 5 mass extinctions that led to the disappearance of 75% of species. The last episode happened about 66 million years ago, when 76% of all species were lost, including dinosaurs, due to volcanic activity, climate change and the impact of asteroids. The scientists further noted that the focus on species extinction leads to a false impression that the Earth's habitat is not threatened, but is only slowly entering an episode of massive biodiversity loss. This view overlooks current trends in population declines and extinctions, the study states. The resulting biological annihilation will obviously have serious ecological, economic and social consequences. Humanity will eventually pay a heavy price for the decline of the only set of life we know of in the universe, warn scientists. Annually, on average 2 species of vertebrates go extinct, but people are not aware of this phenomenon. Perhaps because the rate is relatively slow. But researchers warn, the world is experiencing an era of mass extinction unparalleled since the disappearance of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. We humans are to blame, but there is also the possibility that astronomical and cosmic factors are accelerating this process. This is a case of biological annihilation occurring globally, even if species from these populations are still present somewhere on Earth, said Rodolfo Durzo, professor of biology at Stanford and co-author of a study published this week in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Based on data from the International Union for Conservation of Nature, it pointed out that the specter of extinction threatens about 41% of all amphibian species and 26% of known mammals. This global disaster is caused by habitat loss, overexploitation, invasive organisms, pollution and climate change. The new analysis focuses on reducing populations and locations of occurrence. 27,600 species of birds, amphibians, mammals and reptiles were mapped, a sample that represents half of all terrestrial vertebrate species, and the population reduction of 177 well-studied mammals between 1990 and 2015 was calculated. The result of the study is terrific. Calculations indicate that more than 30% of vertebrate species are suffering from reduced population size in inhabited territories. Of 177 mammals analyzed in detail, all lost 30% or more of geographic range, and more than 40% of species lost more than 80% of habitat. Tropical regions are the most impacted, particularly mammals from South and Southeast Asia, where all the large species analyzed have lost more than 80% of their habitat. Mass extinctions have been seen as loss of species, explained Paul Ehrlich, co-author of the research. But equally important, or more important, is the loss of populations that were these species. Now, why are we concerned about these populations? For example, we are losing populations of birds, bats and insects that control pests that allow us high productivity in agriculture. In the last 40 years, the planet has lost about half the number of animals and insects, including bees, that it once did. This volume represents a massive erosion of the greatest biological diversity in the history of the planet, say the authors. This loss of populations and species reflects our lack of empathy with all wild species that have accompanied us since our origins, said Gerardo Ceballos, from the National Autonomous University of Mexico and co-author of the research. It is the prelude to the disappearance of many of the species and the decline of the natural systems that make civilization possible. All factors equated show the inevitability of the sixth mass extinction. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to receive new videos.